Hi everyone, I'm Lindsay. I'm the owner and designer of Black Sapphire Design. My company specializes in handmade award-winning costumes for teams and groups, and we take care of everything but the rhinestones for your dancers. So if you need just a base that you want to embellish yourself, we can provide that for you. If you need like a plain leotard, two-piece, something with a skirt, leggings, anything like that. Or if you want us to take care of everything but the rhinestones, we'll do that for you too. In that case, you probably don't need to watch this video anymore, but there will be resources for you to look into that for our company. So today we're going to talk about embellishments like appliques and the best ways that you can put those on your costumes for your teams to make sure that all of your costumes are identical and look great on the stage. Okay, so one of the most important things you need to remember when you are embellishing your costumes is that you need to stretch it just a little bit, enough to make sure that there's no puckers or gatherings anymore from the elastic, because we know that dance costumes stretch, and it's really important to have that lay flat while you are embellishing it so that it fits your dancer when they actually get it on their bodies still. And you don't have to do anything fancy. You can order a mannequin. I got this one off of eBay for about $25, very cheap. You can actually stick pins right into it, which is helpful when you're trying to pin on an applique. And I think it's just a foam core, and it does detach from the base, so you can work on it standalone. You can lay it down, or you can put it up here to work on it with a skirt or see how that's going to look. And then we do have these adjustable dress forms. You can get them on Amazon or at like Joann Fabrics or any other craft store. They do adjust to fit a range of sizes, which is great if you're working with teams. And they come in adult sizes like the gold one over here. They do come in child and teen sizes, and you should be able to get a variety of sizes from that in order to stretch the costume as much as you need to. If you're embellishing, you can even use a cardboard box. See, I have this stretched out here. And the most important thing is that I've actually just eliminated the puckers so that if you're putting rhinestones along the edge, they're going to be straight. Or if you're putting an applique on, that when you put this back on the dancer, it's going to stretch properly still. One thing you want to keep in mind with your costumes is that if you're working with appliques, especially on a large scale, is that the costume stretches enough still with this applique on the bodice fully. So with this costume, the nature of it is that these parts have an elastic tendency. So you just want to make sure that whatever surface you're working with does stretch this part out in order to lay flat. And that way when you get it back on your dancer, it's going to fit still. So one of my favorite embellishments for costumes is the applique. There's so many varieties. They can give you a jazz feel or a lyrical feel or anything in between. But they also take up a lot of visual surface area on your costume so that you're not having to add a lot of rhinestones in order to give that sparkly visual effect. So you can use something like this one, which is great for teams because it actually does add the sparkle without the individual rhinestones. Or beaded varieties, which I really like these, tone on tone, like this right here. Another one is this, and I love these this year, but the 3D floral appliques. Now these do have a lot of mesh behind them, so they will require more cutting after you apply them to the costume. So that's one thing to keep in mind, and I will show you that in a later video, the best way to go about that, whether you're doing it for a team or a soloist. But I love to put the appliques on my form first, kind of play around with them, get a few different looks that I like, and pin them, take pictures, and then walk away and look at them later to make sure I still like the look of the appliques on the costume. Alright, so I'd like to give you another example here. With this costume, there are still pins in it, still work in progress, but I wanted to show you when you're working with something like this, you want to work with your centers and your other points of interest that are going to be the same across all your costumes. So I recommend finding your centers based on your seams. Obviously this one would be it in the back, the center of that waistband right there. Use points like your side seams, also points where your straps meet another area. What else? This would be, say, an area of interest rhinestone. We know that, along with the straps on here and the front bow. And that's how I would gauge placement for any additional appliques. Now for this one, just to show you an example, I've marked my center and I found that off of the mannequin. So I folded it in half, side seam to side seam, and then marked my center here with a pin so I can put it on the mannequin, because when you stretch things it might shift just a little bit. You can also use a marking pen. And so now if I were to use this applique right here, I would match my center of the applique to the center of the waistband. And then I could easily do that on all of the team costumes. That would be a very easy one to do. And this one glues on very well. There's a stiff backing, and if it's not iron on, then you can glue it on. The other option that I might go with for this costume is this rhinestone iron-on trim. Does not stretch very well, so I would not put it all the way around the costume because then it won't go over the hips. But I would most likely start at the edge of the bow. I probably would not go any more than 1 inch past this side seam towards the back. So I would start at the bow, wrap it around, and continue to the other side. And this is an iron-on, so this one would probably work best on a box or even on an ironing board to lay it down and then to use your iron to make it stick. Alright, so we have our costume base and it's on a box, and that's actually because this costume is so small it will not fit on any of my mannequins. But as you can see, it needs a little pinning. And the best pins to use are these metallic pearl pins. They're very sharp. They will not leave holes in your lycra or elastic. And the nice thing about a box is that you can actually pin this into place. Put the pins in towards each other after you stretch as needed. And so you see we have a little bit of puckering here from the elastic, which is normal, and it's what keeps the costume on your dancer when it's on their body. But we want to lay that flat when we're working on the costume. So put the pins opposite from each other and put them at an angle towards each other so that when it pulls backwards, it's pulling on the pin. And so just make sure all of your straps are nice and stretched, and you want to see it about like this, not stretched any further than that. Okay, and then this is actually stretched out just the right amount, and we're not going to do anything with this area because it's the crotch of the briefs, and I normally don't put anything there. I don't recommend it either. So I'm going to lay out a few appliques. I'm going to get a feel for how I want things to look. And then I'm going to take pictures and decide where I want things. And then we'll have the option of gluing or sewing those into place for a different feel. And I've already decided on these because they're just so pretty. Okay, so let's talk about embellishing with appliques. For this style, we already have it stretched out on our board the way that it needs to be. I have my centers marked, top and bottom, along this axis, and then we're also working with these points for the straps. And it does curve around the edge, so we won't be able to see the edge in this video, but we're going to talk about this applique. It's a repeated pattern, which means that it's the same, and it just repeats itself over and over again. So we're going to look for similarity points and match them to our top. And this is important if you're doing more than one costume, because you want to have a starting point and reference points. So what we're going to do is, I've already kind of played around with this, but I want to find the center on this piece. See, I fold it in half this way. And here's my center at the bottom, and we're just going to line it up with the bra top. And now I've chosen to have the bottom edge of this hang off of the top. So what I'm going to do next, now that I have this matched up with my center, so I know that it's not going to move left to right anymore, it's going to stay on this axis. So next what I'm going to look at is my straps on both sides, and I just want to make sure that the flowers are the same, that they look good, and that they're the same on the straps. So this is why I haven't determined length yet. Let's see what looks good, where the flowers head. I'm just gonna move it around and play with it. But you just want to make sure that whatever you're doing makes sense, left to right, top to bottom. And you also want to check the hem. We're working with this trim that has like a certain length off of it, so you just want to, once you start pinning it in place, you want to find points where it makes sense to repeat. So right here is the edge of my hem of the crop top, if you can see that through the mesh. And then I'm going to find that point on all of these long points here and match that to the bottom of the crop top, and that way it's even all the way across. I found that here. And then same on this side. I'm gonna match it here. So now once I'm done with that, I'm going to match up my other points, and that way I can repeat this. If I have another identical costume, I can repeat this over and over again and make sure that everything's lined up for the costumes and it'll look uniform on stage. So after you're done with this bottom hem part, then I would go back up here and just kind of play around with your flowers. They're not